began to show up. My father showed me the one from the medical school. And I was admitted and I was happy and I didn't even ask about the other ones and I went to medical school. So I had my initial medical training in Nigeria. And in Nigeria, we run the British system, which means you go to medical school straight from high school. So I was about 18 when I went into medical school.
No college, then medical school
No,
directly?
you go straight into medical school and you spend 6 years. If you didn't have advanced level, advanced high school. But if you had ordinary level, 5 years of high school, then you have 6 years in the university. So I had 5 years in college because I already had 2 years of post-secondary education. So then I was doing medicine like everybody else, and in Nigeria, medical school is 2 years preclinical and then 3 years clinical. And when you finish and you have your medical degree, you're going to go into junior residency. Junior residency means you're going to rotate through all the major specialties as a little doctor working under supervision. And during that time, you go through surgery, internal medicine, pediatrics, and OBGYN. And at that time, I began to realize that medicine was not a joke. If you're going to be in medicine, you'll be awake all night. People give birth to babies at night. People fall ill at night, and they'll call you, and they'll wake you up. And I started to look for the easy way out. And I realized that there was something called public health. In Nigeria, we call it public health, we call it community medicine. And I decided to go into community medicine because that is the specialty where you prevent things from happening. And I was thinking that if people can prevent all these things, why do they wait until they fall ill? So I went into preventive medicine. So by 1979, I think, I went to Glasgow in Scotland and I had my master's degree in public health. So my medical degree is from Nigeria, my public health degree is from Glasgow. And then I came back to Nigeria and I was involved in numerous World Health Organization programs that have to do with prevention. For example, I was involved in the expanded program of immunization where we had to try and immunize all children against the 6 deadly childhood diseases. That's measles and whooping cough and stuff like that. So I was doing that. I was also program director for what we call a primary health care program. Primary health care is supposed to be a program where everybody sees a primary health care doctor, and you cannot go to a specialist unless you're referred. So we have these little clinics in villages, we have little clinics here and there, and I did primary health care for many, many, many years. But at the same time, while I was doing all of this, I was doing it in a teaching hospital. So I had to teach.
Very good. Doctor, let me interrupt here for our first commercial break, and then we'll pick up when we come back. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Dr. FUkoli, who is at Meharry Medical College, and the topic is preventing overweight babies. Dr. FUkoli, we started off by getting some information in reference to your background and experiences and et cetera. Let's pick up at that point and bring yourself to Meharry Medical College, and then we'll get into preventing overweight babies from that perspective during the second segment.
Right there in the university in Nigeria, some people from Pittsburgh University wanted to do research looking at blood pressure, hypertension in black people. And they wanted to compare Nigerians with African Americans. So that's how I got into research. So they came to my university and I started working with them. And after 9 years, they invited me to Pittsburgh University for 1 year to do a master's program in epidemiology. So that's how I got to the US. So I did epidemiology, and now I'm doing research, looking at blood pressure, looking at diet, looking at all kinds of things that cause problem for people. So after the master's program, I worked at Howard University for 5 years, and I was running the prostate cancer screening program and the prostate cancer prevention, dietary risk factor prevention program. And I was there for 5 years. And after that, I came to Meharry because I was going to come and do the same thing. So here at Meharry in Nashville, I've been working on prostate cancer for 8 years. I'm still working on prostate cancer. I still do prostate cancer education. But then I always think of the children and the babies that I used to work with. And here in America, I noticed women don't breastfeed. I also noticed that babies are big. I see babies and I think they are 3 months old, and I'm told that they are 1 month old. I see some babies, I think they are just a whole year old, and I hear that they are 3 months old. I said, these babies are big. So then I started to realize that it's because they were not breastfeeding. They were using formula. So I decided to write a grant. It was first a pilot grant, and it was funded by Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, a little grant to just look at the level of knowledge among women, African-American women, about the kinds of food they should be giving to their babies. And so with that pilot project, I saw that many women did not realize that sugar, candy, juice, and whole milk was not really good for babies. Most women did not even realize that breast milk was superior to formula. They didn't know that. So after the pilot project, I now wrote another grant, and I got funded by the department, well, by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And that program gave me enough money to educate 350 pregnant women and to talk to them about breastfeeding and to talk to them about how they can prevent their baby from being obese. Now, why are we trying to prevent babies from being obese? Because everybody likes the bouncing baby boy, the bouncing round cheeked little baby girl. We all like them to be big. But big babies will grow up to be
create big problems.
Big preschool children. They're going to be big high school children. They're going to be obese adults. And then all this problem, we have a lot of problems that go with obesity. For example, hypertension is one of them. Hypercholesterol, that is high cholesterol in the blood, comes from obesity. We have heart disease related to obesity. All that will happen in the future if you don't stop obesity now. But even in the babies, a big baby has problems. One problem is they are not as agile as a baby that's not big. You know, they don't move, they don't roll quickly, they don't move well, and so they have the opportunity of, their milestones are a little bit slower. Then you see the big babies, if they are that big, they have acid reflux. They do get acid reflux quite easily. And big babies also have a nappy rash more quickly than smaller babies, and they have candida around their neck, under the folds. And the story of sudden infant death syndrome, we don't know the exact cause of all of that, but it has to do with problems, sleep problem, breathing problem, and this type of things might be higher in children that are a little bit too big for their age. So now I'm not talking about, we know that there are other factors in sudden infant death syndrome. We know that blankets in the cot or some crib and things like that can lead to it. But if the baby is a little bit too big, he's not as agile as the one that's smaller. So that is why we want to prevent obesity. We want to prevent obesity in the baby for now, and we also want to prevent obesity in the baby to prevent obesity in the future, which has so many health risks. For
How many, it seems that you're sort of breaking a pathway toward some things people never thought of in terms of the size of these babies. Generally, when we talk about obesity in children, we get them when they are 2 or 3 years old and they're getting, but what you're saying is that the very, very factor of the way they are fed has quite a bit to do with it, and you think that breastfeeding has...
Oh, yes, because you see, when a newborn baby does not pick what they want to eat, they don't know what they like, they don't have a choice. They take what they are given, and the natural choice is breastfeeding, breast milk. And I don't know if you've ever tasted breast milk, but breast milk is bland. It's not sweet. It's not sweet, it's just bland.
Light.
And it's light, and it's created, each mother produces the exact kind of milk that is suitable for her own
baby, because she's been carrying that baby for 9 months.
All the immunity, all the antibodies in the mother are in the milk, and it's all transferred to that baby. So the immunity that I will give to my own baby might be a little bit different from the immunity another mother will give to her own baby, depending on the infections that she has come across. So the breastfeeding is supposed to be the answer, is the natural food for the baby. But the thing is, we have something competing with breast milk, and that is formula. Formula is competing with breast milk, and formula is advertised, is aggressively promoted, is pushed everywhere. In fact, it has been pushed for over 100 years, to the point where many people have forgotten
about
that breast milk is superior to formula. And that is why I decided that this is a program I have to carry out with a lot of passion, because I can see that most women do not know.
Okay, very good. And Doctor, we're going to take our second commercial break. And when we come, excuse me, when we come back, we want to give you the final segment to talk about some of the things that you think that we ought to know in reference to preventing high-weight babies. And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you, and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Dr. FUkoli, and she's giving us some information about preventing high birth weight among babies. And Dr. FUkoli, let me give you an opportunity during this last segment to simply inform the audience in reference to some of the issues dealing with overweight babies and formulas and all of the kind of things that you think that they ought to know in order to have a successful pregnancy as well as a successful birth weight in dealing with babies.
So I will just say that I'm going to talk about two things. The first one is that this program, my program, was developed along the line of the Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative, which was launched by the World Health Organization in 1990. So it's about 30 years ago. In that program, they expected the hospitals to take the lead and to encourage women, support women, and give them all they need to breastfeed and to avoid formula altogether in the first 6 months of life. That is what they call exclusive.
At least the first 6 months.
The first 6 months of life is supposed to be exclusive breastfeeding, because you don't want to introduce any other thing. You don't want to give the child another taste. You don't want them to taste any other thing but breast milk the first 6 months. And then the other thing is that the government and society in general was supposed to support women to do that, because you cannot exclusively breastfeed a child if you don't have support. And what is the support I'm talking about? One support is you shouldn't be working. You should be at home.
At least that first 6 months.
6 months. But how are you going to be at home if you don't get paid maternity leave? Every single country on earth, except for 3 countries, including the US, do not give women paid maternity leave. If you, the UK or Germany, France, all these countries, they give a whole year.
And all of that has to do with the health of the child itself, because by staying at home and breastfeeding.
If the woman stays at home, she can breastfeed fully for the first 6 months of life. But you have to support her by giving her paid maternity leave. So that is important. The second thing is that most people have forgotten that the breast was designed for the baby. Human milk was designed for human baby, and there's no need trying to create a human milk substitute that will always be substandard. For one, it contains the wrong amount of calories, too much calories, that's why the babies blow up. Secondly, it allows the baby to eat too much because you're feeding the baby from a bottle and you are trying to make the baby finish whatever you want the baby to finish. But if the baby was on the breast, they self-regulate. They suck and they stop. In fact, the breast will produce just the right quantity of milk for the baby. But so this program we have, we're trying to educate women, let them understand that their baby comes first. We try to explain to them that the best thing they can do for their baby is to stay at home with the baby. And I know it's difficult, especially if you're not going to be supported. So the government needs to think about this. Rather than giving people formula, you know, give them paid maternity leave.
Now, that's, you were saying that would be cost effective in the long run, because by simply having the mother stay there with the child for at least 6 months, she will have a healthier child and he will have fewer diseases and et cetera and et cetera. And so in the real sense, that is cost effective.
Yes. I was actually reading an article that mentioned up to $90 million saved, cost saving, you know, in cash by just breastfeeding, so that because if you breastfeed the baby, they have less infection, less ear infection, less respiratory tract infection. They have so many things that will go right for that baby, that they don't have to go to hospital all the time. And then you save money if you do that. And then the mother, they will bond with the baby. There's a lot of psychological benefits for the baby especially, and also for the mother, if they are able to stay together and bond together. And so this program has been designed in such a way that we encourage women to come and get 4 education sessions for free. We talk to them about obesity in babies and why it is a bad thing. We talk to them about breast milk and formula. We compare the two, and we encourage them to try and do what we're doing, knowing fully well that several hospitals do not promote breastfeeding.
Oh, yeah?
They may pay lip service to promote, but in action, there are certain hospital routines that discourage breastfeeding. Take, for example, if you have a baby born right now, you're supposed to put the baby to the mother's breast within 30 minutes and let the baby suck. That's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to take the baby away from the mother. And why do we say that? Because if a baby is born, it's kept on the mother's bosom, the baby will find the nipple and latch by him or herself.
That's natural.
It's natural. And that will send a message to the brain to do what we call the let-down reflex that will tell the breast that, oh, there's a baby there. And this will make the woman lactate. Like, she can hear the baby, she can see the baby beside her, she can smell the baby, she can smell the baby. All her senses will be stimulated to make the breast produce enough milk for the baby. But if you take the baby away, or if you use too much painkillers on the mother, those are all the kind of things that will dull the reflex, and the breast will like go into sleep and might not produce the milk that it was supposed to produce because it was not stimulated enough. And also, there are some things that people do. When a woman has a baby today, she's only going to produce colostrum, what we call colostrum, a few drops at a time. She's not going to produce milk. But sometimes in the hospital, some people will show the mother and convince her that your breast is not producing milk. So let's give your baby formula.
And they end up with the formula.
Yes, but the breast was not supposed to produce milk on the first day. It was supposed to produce drops of brownish, light brown colostrum, which is highly concentrated, high calorie, high antibodies and everything. That's all the baby needs.
And physicians act as if they don't know that.
I believe that physicians know a little bit about breastfeeding, but in the last 40, 30 years, breastfeeding has been removed from the curriculum. They might, in the medical school, in the nursing school, they might mention breast milk and then go on and talk about formula. But now we have people called certified lactation consultants in the hospital. They are trained. They are trained to give proper and full breastfeeding education. But that's not enough. We want every doctor, every nurse to be trained. Everybody, not just a few. And so in my program, I try to talk to these mothers and I tell them, make sure you tell your doctor you want to breastfeed so that they will refer you to the lactation consultant so that you will know all there is to know about breastfeeding your baby.
Now, what if somebody would like to know more about what you're doing, doctor, in terms of your research and your program and et cetera? What can you leave with us this morning in reference to how they can get in touch with you?
I have a phone number. They can call us at 615-327-5670.
Or they can get in touch with you at Meharry Medical College.
Yes, I'm right there at Meharry. If they ask for Dr. FUkoli, and they say the pregnant women,
the breastfeeding baby woman. Yes, ma'am.
program, they will get to me. So I'm right there.
And so you truly believe that this can really change the lives of mothers and children?
Because I was there in Nigeria when we started the Baby Friendly Initiative in 1990, and it was like night and day. One day we were not breastfeeding, and the next day we were breastfeeding, the whole country, because we became baby friendly. In 1990.
And so that's Nigeria now in terms of baby
Nigeria and many other countries. America is becoming baby friendly from about 6 years ago. And in Nashville, a few hospitals are now baby friendly. 2 hospitals are
Very
baby
good.
friendly.
And Dr. FUkoli, let me, thank you for coming by and giving us that excellent information in reference to